Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have a ball. I'm sweet like
Hey,
a
hey, 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 hey,
Show
hey,
them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
Hey, everybody.
Right now.
Create that energy. Let's
Baby,
go.
I'm as young
I'm
as the
Kat, and
night.
this is
I wanna
Brenda,
dance right now.
and you are watching
Babe,
Babes Unscripted.
Unscripted. So, in this journey that you've had so far, your personal journey and in interviewing people on your podcast, what do you think are some of the top tips that you could give people that you think are important for really getting to this place where you can reset your mindset and gain that inner self-worth?
So I think what I've learned interviewing all of my guests so far is to love yourself, to really value yourself, and to hold yourself within yourself with that self-respect. And when you do that, you're acting from a place of love, and that shows in other people as well. I've interviewed some people who experienced a major challenges in their career, and they really were able to fill that gap because they wanted to be someone who they needed in their early years. So I think that tells a lot about how when we love ourselves and the questions that we typically ask, like, what would you tell your younger self? I think that comes from a place of love, that you're trying to become someone who you needed when you were in your early years. And a lot of people have also shared with me that when they are really focusing or operating from that solutions-driven approach, and you're saying if you experience certain challenges in life, okay, instead of saying, all right, here's the problem, but then now you think of in terms of how can you solve that problem, right? Instead of being a victim or staying stuck. Like you, Kat, you mentioned, okay, I'm gonna wear my big girl pennies and make a change, right? So I think that courage was something that was really impactful while having empathy, right? So I think my guests are pretty much from diverse backgrounds who talk about all things in life, how they were able to unlearn certain limited beliefs and relearn, and in that process, what kind of, challenges they overcame. But all that comes down to self-love, I would say.
I love that. I love that. That's a journey. I love what you said about victim mindset, because I tend to think of myself as a very strong woman, and I would not categorize myself as somebody who comes from victimhood. However, I think it can be very subtle when you're going through challenges. And recently, in all the Tony Robbins events that I've been attending, when he does these interventions, I can see myself in some of them. And for some reason, every time he does this intervention with somebody, it always comes back to like this victimhood mentality. And so, I'm starting to really look for myself, like, where is it that it's really subtly showing up so that I can get rid of it? Right? Like, where is it? Maybe it's when I'm actually having a challenge, or maybe when it's dealing with family members. I'm not sure. But I think that that's a big thing that I'm looking at now. And I can recognize it within clients too, right? When you're going through something and you kind of feel like it's happening to you, or that it's because of this, it's because of that, and there's not really a lot of power in that. And so I love what you're saying about loving yourself as being one of the antidotes for that, because in loving yourself, then that definitely creates power, right? So if you love yourself and you can come up with some tools that help you to see yourself in a more powerful light, then that gives you more access to different choices. Because I'm a firm believer that our actions come out of the way that we think about things, right? So how something occurs for us then dictates what kinds of actions it will take. So if it occurs to us that we can't change it, or it occurs to us that this is just the way that it has to be, then we make different choices than from a place where it's like, oh, you know what? It doesn't have to be this way. Maybe there's other options. How else can I approach this? Right. And self love is a great place to start, because often when we're going through a challenge, we start saying, well, I'm not smart enough, or I don't have the resources, or some version of self talk that's like that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I want to add to that, Kat, because I think it's important what you mentioned, that I think I'm at a point where I feel, like you said, you feel strong, right? Like personally, I feel very grounded, very strong. I have been in a situation where, there's this triangulation and family members where I said, you know what, I'm getting out of that. That's actually a psychology term, triangulation. I actually like stepped away. I have to step away from that because I feel like I no longer, again, categorize myself as a victim. I have been through a lot. Yeah, absolutely. But I'm at a better mindset now where I'm like, you know what? It happened to me. It's okay. Like it happened for me. Like now I'm turning those disempowering beliefs into empowering ones. And I'm looking at those golden nuggets of why this happened. This happened for a reason. And this is why I'm successful now, because this happened, right?
Mhm.
But sometimes the victimhood comes from family members. Unfortunately, when you're around your family members, when you're around friendships and in certain environments, that victimhood comes up because they are speaking that way. And remember, words are important, right? We talked about it in one of our previous podcasts, how important words are. So you have to be conscious and aware not to be around these environments, and you have to figure out, especially with family, it's a little challenging because you can't cut your family. I mean, yes you can, but like we love our families, right? And sometimes you're like, I gotta figure out ways to disengage from those negative talks, those conversations where they're going into victimization mode. So when they become victim, then you start, oh yeah, I agree, and you start agreeing. So now you're going into their world. So I think, again, I think you're in my boat where you are strong yourself, but then you have the surroundings that kind of affect that mindset. So just wanted to bring that up.
Yeah, I know that's
Yeah,
so.
I mean, I definitely agree that family has a big part, and I think that touches upon what we're talking about with the unlearning, right? That's what a lot of the times that's where we learn a lot of the things that we want to unlearn, and family, they're wonderful, right? And at the same time, I was just saying this about some family members the other day, that what I have to recognize is that I'm the one that's doing this work, right? I'm the one that went for school for psychology, so I understand, right? Like the terminology, like you're talking about triangulation, and that way, you're learning about it too, Brenda. So it's like you can spot that now, right? Like you can, like our friend Yolan says, if you spot it, you got it, something like that.
I
So
love
when you see those things, you can spot it because you learned about it, right? Whereas they didn't learn, so they can't spot it, right? And we're the ones that are taking the self-development classes, and we're the ones that are going and taking these certifications and going to these workshops. And so we have an abundant amount of tools. And I think what happens for me, and I'd love to hear what you ladies um, feel about this, but I think what happens for me is that sometimes I get caught up in this expectation that they should be acting from that place too, right? Like you should know this, and you should have those tools, forgetting that they didn't attend that seminar with me, they didn't go to 4 years of college with me, they didn't attend all the yoga school trainings with me, so they really just don't know. They're using the tools that they have, and I have to get back to a place where it's just I love and accept them for who they are, and realize because I have the tools, I am the one that has to use them.
Well, listen to this, right? I'm glad you said that because Tony talks about expectations in one of his, I think it's UPW, where when you expect that person to be like you're going to be frustrated. You're going to, the relation, especially in an amorous relationship, or like a friendship, like a best friend or something like that, or family, if you expect someone to treat you the way you treat them, you are going to fail, my friend. I'm telling you, or not you, but I'm saying like friend, like everybody, okay? Even the listeners and the viewers, like you're gonna fail. Prime example, right? When I have a complete mindset nowadays when it comes to abundance, when it comes to financial abundance, it's going to spill over to my family. So I have this, like, my heart now is like, listen, if I were to win $1 million right now, I'm giving. I'm giving because that's my heart is there now. And I'm giving without expectations, right? And I'm not gonna say, like a Indian giver. You heard that, right? Oops, I hope that I get in trouble. But you've heard that Indian giver, like there was like back in the day, the natives would give you a gift and they will return it, ask for it in return. So I've heard that term before. Like you don't want to be in that place where you're like giving and then you expect them to give back. No, absolutely not. And you have to get that out of your mindset, because if you have that expectation, you're going to be depressed. You're going to be sad. You're going to be crying because, oh, I give everybody this, but they don't give it back to me. Give it because you love them and keep it moving. That's how I'm traveling nowadays.
That is so empowering, because I recently heard someone say, when you give someone and let's say they don't feel like you gave them, or when you give them, you have expectation of something in return, then you're not giving, you're really taking the energy out of them. And I thought that was so a wake-up call for me, where, I mean, when I give people like in my family or friends, not necessarily that I'm expecting something in return. I give just because I want to. But sometimes we have this something, right? Like we're not expecting, but we just want that to be reciprocated in a different way, maybe. So then I'm like, oh, okay, I need to understand the true meaning of giving here. So that was a great point that I learned. And I'm glad you brought that up. And I so agree with what you both ladies said about, it's difficult, especially with families, right? How to, like, if we have the tool to improve our lives and we come to the state of calm, we have balanced our nervous system and we're operating from a place of abundance. However, sometimes if people aren't in that same frequency and that misalignment's there, we tend to drift apart, right? Like, let's say in friendship, and it becomes hard to live with that friction. And if it in relationship, I think if you're living with someone, it becomes even harder. So we tend to drift apart. And coming back to family example, I still have hard time to cut negative relatives, especially. I have a wonderful family, but in terms of relatives, I still have hard time to completely cut them off. But one thing that I've realized with my own family is when I've changed my life in a positive way, I've seen them changing a little bit. So I guess that's a good thing. But it may not happen in all scenarios and with all the people that we have to live with or continue our life with.
Absolutely. I mean, for my family, I've noticed that we have made leaps and bounds of growth, right? And I don't want to sound corny, but it's true. It's like you have to be the change that you want to see, right? And I can't like take credit for every single change that, has happened in my family, but I really do believe that me taking this personal development path and going through yoga school and going through psychology, it has created a ripple effect, right? And we are in a lot better space as a collective. And I don't think a lot of that would happen if I didn't come from a place of forgiveness, right? And a place of acceptance and a place of non-attachment from certain things. And yeah, I really do think that if you are the change that you want to see, it may not happen overnight, but there is this ripple effect that happens. And then you're right, there are going to be people who are on this life journey that they've come here to earth school, and their lesson is one that requires a few more lessons or a few more tests or whatever it is, and they're not going to budge. And then you have to kind of redirect yourself and say, okay, how do I then place this person, right? So maybe they're not part of my inner circle. Maybe they're not part of my outer circle. Maybe they're not part of any of my circles at all, right? Depending on how the conversations go and how the energy affects you. And there's nothing wrong with that either. I really believe in releasing with love, right? Whether it's, you know, a relationship or a home or whatever it is, when you come to the end of a relationship, or for instance, now I'm moving, you want to release the place with love, right? Where you can say, you know, I'm moving on from this, I'm growing, and I'm moving on to something else, and it's coming from a place of love, right? And I think that that's the best way to do things. And honestly, I feel that way about all my exes. I know a lot of clients that I have, when they look about their relationships, I think it's all too common for people to want to hate the person, right? Like they're such an evil bastard, or whatever kind of names they'll tell them, or they did this to me and they did that to me. And that could be very true. Like I've had some traumatizing experiences where they were not so great to me in certain experiences, but I don't let that take up the space for the entire relationship, because there were a lot of great things that happened in that relationship too. And when I come from that and I can be very grateful for all the good things that happen, I can actually become grateful for the negative things that happened as well, right? Because that does make you the person that you are, and it sets you up for new relationships. And so that's a great place to experience that releasing with love. And sometimes, like I'm going through now, it's a home, right? So I'm leaving this apartment. It serves me really, really well. And, you know, I'm making sure to leave it in good condition so that the next person can come and have this space, right? And it can be in all types of things. It can be jobs, it can be projects, right? So yeah, I think that that's a big tool, to learn how to release things with love.
Thank you for tuning in to Babes Unscripted. We hope you've enjoyed today's episode and found it both entertaining and insightful. If you want more unfiltered and unscripted conversations, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, don't forget to hit that bell icon to get notified when we post new episodes. Remember, life is unscripted, and we're here to embrace every moment of it with you. Until next time, stay unfiltered, stay authentic, and stay fabulous. This is your host, Brenda Paz and Kat, signing off Babes Unscripted. Bye now.